Your whole feed is people your age 10 timesing their money on something you've never heard of. Meanwhile, you're carrying $94,000 in debt, and a house costs 8 times what you make. Being careful starts to feel like being a sucker. There's a name for that feeling now. Economists at the World Economic Forum named it this year. They call it financial nihilism. And here's the thing. You're not imagining it. The game really is harder than it was for your parents. For people under 35, a home now costs around 8 times what you earn. A generation ago, it cost 3 or 4. And nearly half of young adults have already pulled money out of their own retirement savings just to get by. So when being careful starts to feel pointless, that isn't you being lazy or dramatic. That's a normal response to a game that really does feel rigged. The anxiety is real, and honestly, it's earned. But here is what almost nobody on your feed will tell you about where that anxiety is actually pointing you. If you want the calm, evidence-based version of money, the exact opposite of the screaming and the get-rich-quick noise you usually get, subscribe. If not, no hard feelings, stay right here, because this next part is the whole point, and it's the part that changes how you feel about being behind. Here's what's actually happening underneath all the noise. The smartest people your age are not doubling down on the casino. They're quietly walking away from it. I call it the quiet turn, the turn away from fast money gambling and towards something slower, calmer, almost boring on purpose. It doesn't trend. Nobody posts a screenshot of it. But it's happening all around you, and the evidence behind it is genuinely striking. There's one number that quietly flipped over the last 4 years. It's the best proof that your own instinct to get out of the casino is pointing you exactly the right way. Hold on to that. Because once you see it, you stop feeling behind and you start feeling early. The quiet turn isn't a trade you make in a panic. It's a decision you make in a calm moment once, and then let run. And the people making it aren't the ones who got lucky and cashed out at the top. They're the ones who simply got tired of the whiplash. So here's that number. Back in 2021, when everything felt like a winning lottery ticket, research from the CFA Institute found that 51% of young investors were buying purely out of fear of missing out. More than half. Pure FOMO. By 2025, that number had fallen to about 28%. Read that again. In just 4 years, fear of missing out buying among your generation dropped from 51% to 28%. From more than half to about a quarter. That is not a handful of people quietly cashing out. That is a stampede away from the casino. The smartest of your peers didn't get lucky and quit at the top. They got exhausted by the whiplash and switched to the most boring thing in all of finance. And the reason that switch is the smartest money move they will ever make is the part I really want you to sit with. What did they switch to? Not a better gamble. The opposite of gambling. They switched to owning a little piece of almost everything, as cheaply as possible, and then leaving it completely alone for decades. John Bogle, the man who built index investing for ordinary people, spent his whole life on one sentence. Time in the market beats timing the market. You don't have to find the one winning bet. You just own the whole field, quietly, and give it time. And here is the single most important thing I can tell you. It's the part nobody selling a hot tip wants you to hear. Because you are young, time is the one advantage you have that no amount of money can ever buy back. Here's why time matters so much. The money grows on its own. Then that growth grows too. That's compounding, and it builds on itself year after year. So a small, steady amount you invest in your 20s does more heavy lifting than a much bigger amount you start in your late 30s. The early money simply has more years to grow. The clock does the work, not the casino. That head start is an edge you literally cannot buy later, at any price. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner for 50 years, put the discipline another way. He said the real secret was never being brilliant. It was consistently avoiding being stupid. He kept what he called a too-hard pile. Things he simply refused to bet on because he couldn't understand them. Choosing not to play a game you can't win isn't weakness. It is the entire skill. And if you feel late to all of this, here's the truth that should land. You are not late. Your generation is actually starting earlier than any before it. Roughly 30% of young adults began investing in early adulthood, compared to just 6% of the boomer generation. You're not behind the curve. You are the curve. And for a lot of people, the doorway in isn't a stock tip. It's values. Putting money toward the kind of future you actually want to feel secure in. That's a completely legitimate way in. The point was never to pick the exciting theme and win big. The point is to get in the seat, quietly, early, and stay there while time does what time quietly does. Now, there's a trap on the other side of this, and I'd be lying if I skipped it. When people get burned by the casino, a lot of them overcorrect and run all the way to the opposite extreme. They pull everything into cash and just sit on it, because cash feels safe. The Motley Fool's 2026 Long-Term Investing Survey found that young investors are about 4 times more likely than the boomer generation to call cash the best place for long-term money. And I understand that instinct completely. After all that whiplash, holding cash feels like finally being in control. But here's the quiet problem. Over a few months, cash is safe. Over 40 years, cash quietly melts. That's because of inflation. Prices creep up a little every year, so the same money buys a little less over time. So the cash you're trying to protect slowly loses its value just sitting there. Hiding it under the mattress feels like the opposite of gambling, but it grows from the same root. Both are reactions to fear. One bets everything on a thrill. The other bets everything on standing still. And both let the fear make the decision. And I want to be really clear about this. The answer to overcaution is not to suddenly rush in. It is not buy now before you miss out. That is just the casino wearing a calmer mask. The answer is patience. Small, steady, automatic, and left alone. Not urgent. Just consistent. So here is the whole of it. You don't need a rigged game win to be okay. The win was never the lottery ticket. The win is the quiet turn itself. Slow, low cost, started early, and then mostly left alone while the years do the heavy lifting. The smartest people your age already figured this out. Fear of missing out buying fell from more than half of them to about a quarter in just 4 years. And they didn't get lucky, they got calm. So let me say the thing I most want you to walk away with. You're not behind. You're early. And early is the one edge no amount of money can ever buy back. Here is the one small thing you can do this week, and it's smaller than you'd think. Open a low-cost, broad market index position with as little as $50, even while you keep chipping away at your debt, and set it to repeat automatically. The amount is not the point. $50 won't change your life this month. Starting the clock will. You're not trying to get rich by Friday. You're trying to be in the seat so that time can quietly do its work. That's the whole move. If the calm, evidence-based version of money is what you came here for, subscribe for the Calm Investor Playbook that turns volatility into compounding, and keep one of these close. Calm investors. Build wealth with patience, not panic.